Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to our board candidate forum tonight for Columbia Heights Public Schools. My name is Daniel Honings. I am the president of Columbia Heights Federation of Teachers, local number 710. We always sponsor the candidate board forum. So I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. And while we're thinking about it, because I just heard mine go off, if we could all silence our cell phones, make sure that those are all off so that we can have a peaceful night. And at this point, I will turn everything over to Pastor Dan Thompson, who will be moderating tonight's forum.
All right. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. He already got my cell phone announcement out of the way, so I always like that because no matter what, somebody's going to leave theirs on, and then it's going to ring, and they're going to be going, you know. So, but anyway, we've warned you. Tonight we have 11 questions that we're going to ask each of the candidates tonight, and we will start and then we'll rotate who gets to go first every time. With the questions, we have 11 questions. We want to make sure that we honor the time. So when the lovely Bill over here has the countdown, there are 90 seconds for each answer, and so we do want to honor everybody's time. So when your time is up, I will call it. If you're still talking, I will call it, and we'll just go on to the next question. Okay? So we will we'll rotate those the questions, and so we're just going to start with Naty and just move around. Okay? And so the first question is this, and we'll start with Naty. Tell us briefly about yourself and why you are a candidate for the Columbia Heights School Board of Education position. So go ahead, Naty.
Fire away. All right.
Yeah.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Naty Severson, and I have lived in Columbia Heights for the past 15 years. My husband and I moved here not long after we got married when we found out we were pregnant with our first child. And we've loved it. We fell in love with the community. I think when we bought our home, we decided it was just going to be a short-term buy until we could, you know, step up the ladder or whatever. And what we realized was there was no step up the ladder. We fell in love with the town. We fell in love with the community. Our kids were thriving in the schools. We presently have 3 kids in the Columbia Heights schools, 1 up here at the high school now, and 2 at Columbia Academy. I was the president of the North Park PTA, and as I got more and more involved with that and more interested in school matters, I had friends encourage me to kind of follow that dream to make a greater impact in the schools. And a good step for me was to run for school board. I'm excited about the opportunities to do governance in the schools, to make an impact in the lives of the kids in our schools. I value the mission statement to create worlds of opportunity for every learner, and I want to be a part of something bigger than me, something for our community and for our kids.
All right. Thank you so much. Lorien.
Great, thank you. First, I'd like to thank Local 710 and Pastor Dan for being part of the forum today. Yeah. Like Naty, we moved to Columbia Heights about 13 years ago, and my husband and I moved here. We felt like we wanted a community school feeling. We had lived in the Minneapolis area at a time when they weren't doing districting, and it was important for us to feel like our students, our kids were going to a school that was part of a community. At the time, our son was identified as a gifted and talented child, and we were really seeking out an educational opportunity for him with a gifted and talented program. And that was at a time when a lot of schools were cutting those programs. And Columbia Heights had their program and was growing that program. And that was really important for us. I've been involved actively advocating for our kids for the last 10 years in the Community Education Advisory Council, PTO, our lawn sign committee, music boosters, and working together with the schools. And I think after the last 10 years of working directly in our schools, advocating for our students, I'm ready to move on to another part of working with the school district and advocating for our voters, advocating for residents of Columbia Heights and representing our voters on the school board.
All right. Thank you so much. I want to make sure we get the time reset. So, John, same question. Tell us briefly about yourself and why you're a candidate for the school board.
Okay, thank you. My name's John Larkin. I'm a longtime resident in the Columbia Heights School District. I'm a graduate of Columbia Heights High School. I went to the University of St. Thomas. I graduated with a business degree in management and marketing. I worked 10 years in the private sector in upper management. I was also a training manager for one of the divisions in that organization. I am currently employed by the City of Columbia Heights. I work for the Columbia Heights Fire Department. I've been there since 1993. I started as a firefighter, was promoted to captain, and promoted again to my current position, which is that of the assistant fire chief. I've had the privilege of being on the school board for almost 4 years. I believe that I've demonstrated strong leadership in difficult times. My desire to remain on the school board and continue to help move the district forward is driven by my students, my kids. They're students too, but I have 2 children that are in the district. They've been in the district since kindergarten. My son is a senior and my daughter is a freshman, and I would like to play any role that I can to help, again, move the district forward, providing those career and college opportunities, career and college-ready opportunities for all the kids.
Okay, thank you so much. So you have the opportunity here. And so Ted, the same question, tell us briefly about yourself and why you're a candidate for the school board.
Well, I also want to thank Local 710 and Pastor Dan for this opportunity. This is wonderful. And I'm here, I'm a 23-year resident of Columbia Heights. My wife and I moved here because it was affordable, to be honest. It was a community that we could start, and we're still in our starter home because we fell in love with it. And we just love the small town feel of Columbia Heights and being next to all the resources of a major metro area. So, and that's kind of what led me to be involved in the school board. I've been involved in the city itself pretty much ever since we moved here. And I don't know of any other way than a better way than to be involved in the community and to influence the community than the schools. The schools are the heart of the community, the core of the community. They impact everything throughout our community. And so my goal has always been, throughout my almost 12 years now on the school board, to make our schools the best they can be, because that lifts our whole community. And it also impacts our future. Our children are our future. And to the future of Columbia Heights and the future of our nation depends on how well we do our job here in these schools. And so I just have a great passion for it, and I just think it's very important work.
Great, thanks so much. The next question, we'll start with you, Lorien. And the question is this: given the diversity of our school district, how would you represent all community voices as a member of the school board?
All right, thank you. You know, we do have a very diverse district, and that was another deciding factor for us, for my husband and I both, to bring our family here to be part of the community. We are really looking for a district that was rich in diversity. I do have a degree in communication studies and an emphasis in multicultural communications and cross-cultural communications. And so I have a lot of experience in working with very diverse populations. I manage apartment buildings that are housed by both seniors and students throughout the state of Minnesota. And several of those are in very diverse areas. One of my buildings, I've created a long-standing relationship with our International Students Program and house scholars from all over the world. And I think it's important to listen and to understand and to take into consideration where people are coming from, what goals are, what their expectations are, and to really reach out and help people feel welcome in our community, feel welcome in our schools, and to feel like they can be a part of our district. And I really look forward to really working together to bridge gaps, help involvement, and create opportunities at our school for all students.
Wonderful, thank you. John, same question. Given the diversity of our school district, how would you represent all community voices as a member on the school board?
I would echo what Lorien said is we are an extremely diverse community, and the district obviously represents that. I think to give the voice of the school district, but number one, we need to recognize that with diversity comes lots of different learning styles, different levels of learning, and recognizing that and taking the opportunity or working to provide each student, and it again goes back to the mission statement of giving all of our students worlds of opportunity, recognizing that diversity, the different learning styles. The district currently, we have personalized learning initiatives that we use. They're taking the kids and working with them at the different levels that they're at, and working with our students to bring their performance up, and in turn, I think that will speak to the community through whether it's testing scores, graduation rates, the achievement gap, and things like that.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. Ted, again, I just want to keep the question in front of us. Given the diversity of our school district, how would you represent all community voices as a member of the school board?
Well, I think the important thing is to know that there's a lot of diversity, and to be sensitive to that, and to know that one size does not fit all, and that we have to, first of all, make everybody as much as possible be comfortable with the school district and know that they're being heard, know that their concerns are valued, and kind of the core values that we have up on the wall. Collaboration and respect. And then taking that and explaining and being communicative with everybody, not so much, telling them what we're going to do, but getting feedback and understanding what their perspective is, and then make the decision that's best for everybody. So I help create the listening sessions that we have for the school board, so that people will feel more comfortable coming in and expanding the social media, so that the Facebook posts, the communication tools that the district has now that we didn't always have, I think help reach out to more people and are better communication tools. And then creating the dialogue between the parents and the teachers through technology or different languages, whatever ways tools we can use to make parents and students feel like Columbia Heights knows and understands them.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Naty, given the diversity of our school district, how would you represent all community voices as a member of the school board?
Yeah, when we moved here, we were excited about the opportunity to live in a diverse area. My husband is a school teacher in a different district, but he made it a priority to want to teach in a diverse school. And so that was something we moved in here really encouraged about. And as we've gotten here, we've learned the value of knowing people from different cultures who have had different experiences than us and view the world differently than us. And I think one of the main strategies that I've done and hope to continue to do is actually get to know people who are different than me, spend time with them, hear from them, share my life with them, share myself with them, and allow them to share their lives and themselves with me. And I think in doing so, have an opportunity to create real compassion across different bridges that could exist. And I think as I've done that, it's been easier, or we've created bridges to doing that. I think of my involvement on the North Park PTA and having parents from many different cultures involved and serving on the teams, but not just doing that, in actual leadership roles and enabling a group of very diverse people to come together and make a real impact and create a real community feeling, a familial feeling in the school that I see happening in some ways here, and I'd love to capitalize and continue to grow with.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to the third question, so we'll start with John. When asked by constituents, what are the best reasons you would say what are the best reasons you could give for them to enroll their children into our district?
I only get 90 seconds.
Yeah.
I guess if I were to speak to a constituent about the strengths that we have in our district in this community, The one that I would start with is I would talk about our staff throughout the district. We have people here, whether they live here or not, they care about our students. They are doing, and when I say staff, I mean everyone from, and if I miss anybody, sorry, but the custodian to the cooks, the clerical, the teachers, everyone, they all care. And I know that. I've been in the district, you know, as a firefighter for many, many years, and I've had that opportunity as a parent as well to see that. So that would be a huge strength, is the staff that we have here and that they care. The opportunities that our students have to become career and college ready, whether it be our AP programs, AVID, there's a lot of different curriculum that's academic based. Building on that, the activities that are available here, whether it be theater, the drama, the choir, the band, there's a ton of opportunities for the kids to be able to expand their horizons. And probably one of the things that really impresses me is this district is they work really hard to not just teach the lessons that are there, but they work with our students with teaching them life skills as well. Be it the critical thinking, the creativity, the collaboration. There's a ton of different things that they're teaching our students on a daily basis, and those are strengths we have.
Great. I appreciate that. So, Ted, the same question, and it's this. When asked by constituents, what are the best reasons that you would say they should enroll their children into our district?
Again, there are so many. It's first of all, going back to the diversity, where else can you go to find all the different people groups and languages that we have in our school district? I mean, my daughter's best friend was Tibetan, and where else do you find that, you know? And so that's a plus, that's a strength, and educating our students in that environment really adds and enriches their lives. And so curriculum, you know, we try to be, we're reaching out through personalized education, and we're trying to expand that as a district, and that is so important because, again, it's meeting students where they're at, helping them to move at their pace and to make sure it makes sense as they go along. And so that's another plus that we are, Columbia Heights is growing and expanding on. Our AP program has been nationally recognized as a small district school district AP District of the Year. You know, that program has grown since the late 90s when I first came on the school board, and it just continues to grow and become something that is a great source of pride in Heights and for us. So we've got a lot of things firing on a lot of cylinders, and the district continues to grow and become better and better.
Okay. I sure appreciate that. Naty, what would you say when asked by constituents, why should they enroll their kids in our district?
I've had to answer this, so this is fun. This comes up a lot, and I'm glad to answer it every time because it means people are considering their options, and I'm offering what I think to be the best choice, especially for people who are residents in the community. I would say, first of all, diversity. We talked about that, the diversity of cultures and students in this district is a unique thing that you're not going to find in many other districts. But I also think the diversity in curriculum, we offer so many options. Ted mentioned some of them. I think of the ILPs and just varying the curriculum to meet the needs of the individual students, but also the classes in the high school, just a wide array of classes that kids have to choose from, and then the different opportunities, not just the AP credits, but the PSTO, the opportunities to now get an associate's degree. Those are big things. I'd also say our staff. Why come here? Our staff care. They're passionate about being teachers, about their jobs in the building. And now, in my short time on the school board, the past 8 months, I've been able to see the passion of the administration and the people here. And then finally, it's just a unique relationship between the community and the schools. There's such a high level of collaboration that I think comes from pride in a community. And that offers kids a chance to not just grow as students, but to grow in character and grow in citizenship in a way that you might not be able to do in a community that didn't have that collaborative environment.
Great. All right. Lorien, the same question here. When asked by constituents, what would you say are the best reasons they have to enroll their kids in our district?
I think that the way that I would answer that question is that as a family, we have had our 3 children enrolled in the district for 11 years and have found that our needs are being met. And I look at what is it that Columbia Heights schools can provide that other schools can't provide? Why here and why not somewhere else? The first one, I think, is academic success. As I mentioned, I have a son in the Gifted and Talented program. I have a daughter in the Gifted and Talented program, and I have a son who is not. 3 very unique children with 3 very unique learning styles, and all 3 of them are very academically successful and have been challenged along the way and have been worked through that academic success. We're also a small school system with a lot of opportunity. I look at the things that my kids have been involved in, from theater and drumline and band, music programs, robotics, Destination Imagination, sports. It has been a phenomenal experience. And as the other mentioned, diversity. We're offering a real-world learning experience, an outside the classroom, outside educational opportunity for our students to learn what they will encounter when they leave our school systems in the real world, in businesses and careers, and the different people that they will interact with. And also our passionate staff. Every staff member, every faculty member, every administrator that we have interacted with is passionate about the success of our children.
Fantastic. Yeah, the 90 seconds isn't enough for that question. Yeah. So Ted, the next question you'll start with, and the question is this: what do you see as the role of the school board in this district?
Well, I think the school board primarily is the link between the community and the district. I mean, school board members are all elected. We have to be accountable to the community. And so we listen to the community. We bring the concerns. The community trusts the school board to voice their concerns and to use its governance powers to have the school district be what the community needs it to be. And so I see that as a very important responsibility of the school board. I take it very seriously. Budgetary issues are also very important for the school board because it's through the budget that we enact the priorities of the community and make sure that our resources that the community gives and through taxation are used wisely and are used efficiently and produce the results that the community expects. And so I think as the school board has to be very attuned to the community. It also has to know what's going on in the district, and so it can really guide the ship, not micromanage, not to be involved in the day-to-day, but to have the guidance of the community's interests in mind.
Okay, thank you so much. So Naty, the question to you is, what do you see as the role of the school board?
This is a good question. I've also done a ton of reading on this recently. Becoming a new school board member and walking into that, they just stump a packet of information in front of you. So it's been interesting. I've learned a lot about the word governance. What does that mean? What does it mean to be a governing body over something? And what I come away with is it's this idea of vision and oversight, helping create direction for the school that frees teachers and administrators to do the job of teaching and growing kids in their unique needs. So how do we do that? How do we become promoters? How do we equip? What do we do to help snowplow for people so that they can do their jobs and they can do them well? But also that idea of being a link to the community. I get to hear concerns. I get to share victories. It's an amazing seat to be in, to have people sharing their deepest needs and their biggest victories. It's a privilege as a school board member, and it's something I didn't expect, but really have come to really love and respect about being on the school board. But I think ultimately it's to uphold that mission statement, again, to create worlds of opportunity for every learner. Are we doing that? Are we moving toward that kind of North Star or that guiding bearing point? Are we doing that? And we have to continually ask that question.
Great. Thanks so much. Lorien, what do you see as the role of the school board in the district?
I see the role of the school board as governance. I mean, like the others have said, it's it's really focusing on an oversight area. But what it comes down to, the members of the school board are elected. We're elected by the population of our community, and we're really there to represent the voters. Not to move forward our personal agendas or make sure that my kid is getting what my kid needs, but to advocate for all of our kids. And to really represent our voters, to represent our constituents. And part of that is just listening, really listening to what people have to say, and representing that voice on this board. We also have to be a good steward of taxpayer dollars. I mean, we really have to make sure that we are paying attention to the district finances, watching the budget, making sure that we don't have duplications of efforts, making sure that we're efficient, that the buildings are well maintained, and that we're planning for future facilities needs, because we're representing the voters today, we're representing the voters tomorrow, we're representing homeowners. People have an invested interest in our community and our schools. We have to help set measurable goals and expectations and hold the leadership accountable for meeting those goals. Working in tandem with the administration to continue to move the district forward, but again, measurable goals, expectations, and to be part of that process, and really listening to our community members.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. John, again, the question is, what do you see as the role of the school board in this district?
I would have to concur with all the other candidates in saying, first and foremost, being accessible and available and listening to the constituents as far as what their concerns are, as Lorien mentioned and others did as well. You know, we're elected by those people with the expectation that we're going to work to move the district in a direction that is best for the students and the district as a whole. The role of the board is truly governance and policy. We have one employee, the board, 6 people here have one employee, and that's the superintendent. We hire the superintendent to run the district and drive the district. We monitor, we make suggestions and directions. We are constantly working to be fiscally responsible and in making sure that we, again, are as a whole looking at what's best for the district and our students. We need to make sure that we're following our strategic plan. And as Naty mentioned, you know, our goal is to fulfill this mission statement. So through governance and policy, guiding the superintendent, working to fulfill our mission statement, that's the role of the board, in my opinion.
Great. It's nice because all of you have referred to the mission statement. That's what our next question is about. Yeah. And it is Columbia Heights Public Schools create worlds of opportunity for every learner in partnership with supportive small-town communities by challenging all to discover their talents, unleash their potential, and develop tools for lifelong success. So the question now, and Naty, we'll start with you, is how would you communicate the mission of the Columbia Heights Public Schools to the community?
How would
you communicate it?
Like, how would I explain it, or how would I get the message out there, or both?
Go with both.
Okay. I feel
in 90 seconds.
In 90, yes, I'm really succinct too. That's my forte. So I think my first thing I would answer the question of how would we communicate it to the community. I think we've made vast strides in the last couple of years to improve our website, even the branding, so that this sticks. I see that at the board meetings and the way administration and others, teachers who come and present at board meetings are actually thinking in terms of the core values and the mission statement. They're presenting in that way. And if we say them repetitively, they'll hang, you know, that jingle you can never forget from your childhood. Everyone knows the number of that carpet guy from the commercial, kind of that kind of thing. We need to keep saying it. We need to keep talking about it. How would I communicate it? I think I'd just focus on some of those words. I mean, create worlds of opportunity for every learner. That means every kid out there, regardless of what educational position they're in, what financial position they're in, what their background is, their ethnicity, their religion, creating it for all kids. And then look at that with support of the small town communities, which I've already mentioned. And then to challenge all to discover their talents. I think I'd pitch that idea. What would a world look like? What would our community look like if each kid deeply understood their uniqueness and their talents, and then was able to unleash their potential to develop lifelong success? I mean, for me as a parent, watching my friends' kids, and even kids who I'm meeting in the schools, that would be amazing, that sharing that dream and that vision.
Good. Thanks so much. So Lorien, the question again is how would you communicate the mission of the Columbia Heights Public Schools to the community?
I look at communication in several different ways, and I think it's not enough just to talk about it. I think that the best way that we can communicate our mission to those in the community is by doing it. And I think part of that is really looking out and embracing our community and in community involvement, bringing the community in to our schools and bringing our students into the community. We've got a lot of great things that are going on in our schools with the personalized learning initiatives and the engineering programs and the theater programs and the arts programs. And you know, it is great opportunities for us to get out there and get the community in our schools, to get them involved, to see what we're doing, and to get our students out in the community. There are a lot of incredible resources in this community. There are a lot of opportunities for our students to be learners and to learn from those members of our community. So putting them in real-world applications out there in the community as well, I think, is critical. But we can do our best to communicate what Columbia Heights is all about by not only talking about our mission, by not only putting out flyers and handouts, but truly living it every day, having our students engage in it, and then demonstrate it. What does it mean? And what does it look like? How do you touch it, feel it, act on it? And how can we do that and demonstrate that to the community?
Great. Thank you. So, John, this question again. How would you communicate the mission of the Columbia Heights Public Schools to the community?
Well, I guess I would start by saying probably about 3 years ago, part of our strategic plan was to have a communications plan. And I believe it was 3 years ago we hired a communication director, and Naty alluded to the success and how well that's been going. And that's anything from your social media to your websites being redesigned, pathways. Every school has that it goes out to our community. This is what you need to be successful at this level, in the elementary level, secondary level, the high school level. So I think I would continue to build on that. Most certainly is in the branding and the consistency that has taken place and move that forward. And when talking with people in the community, sharing the positive things that are going on, that I think leads to the living it. And what it looks like is any chance I get when someone asks, and that's why I joked about the only 90 seconds to talk about strengths, is every time I have an opportunity to talk to someone about the things that are going on in our district, it's always those positive things. It's communicating how well we're doing. It's making sure that people understand we are successful and we are making progress and working on the things that we need to work on. And I think that whether I'm saying worlds of opportunity for every learner every time I talk to someone, I believe that the message that I'm personally getting out there is just that. But again, going back to and building on, taking advantage of the communication plan and the communication director to make sure the message gets out to our community.
Fantastic. I appreciate that. Ted, again, the question is, how would you communicate the mission of Columbia Heights Public Schools to the community?
Well, I think the first step is what we actually did. We invited community members actually into this room to help develop the mission statement. So this mission statement was birthed out of the Columbia Heights School District community. And so that is a big step because everyone bought into it, understood it, knew, was excited about it, and was passionate about it. And then that makes the job of communicating the mission that much easier as we put it into place and we keep it in front of us. Every board meeting we talk about the mission and keep it in front of the board and make decisions hopefully based on that mission. And so that I think is, actions speak louder than words. To actually take action based on the values, the collaboration, the goals of students. That whole mission statement is student-centered, and being involved, being focused on the student-centered nature of what we do. I think it just communicates the mission statement more powerfully than any other way that we can. The other thing it does is it unifies the community. We have to be. We have our diversity, but we also need to have our unity together towards pushing in the same direction. And referring to that mission statement and having a unity around it is also very powerful.
All right. Thank you all very much. Our next question is, we're going to start with Lorien, and we're going to be talking about the core values there, the community, excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, innovation. And so the question is this: how would your role as school board member demonstrate the core values of our district? And Lorien, we'll start with you.
A difficult question to be the first one.
I really, sorry
Could you
about the
actually
luck.
repeat the question?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we just hold off on time here. So how would your role as school board member demonstrate the core values of our district? So for each one of you, as a school board member, and you look at those core values and you know that that's what we're wanting all of our teachers, all of our administration, staff, kids to demonstrate, how do you lead the way?
And I talked a little bit about this before, and I really think, again, much like the previous question, is how do we not just talk about it, but how do we do it? And I truly feel like this is actually what I have been doing for the past 10 years. And not only what I have been doing, but what I have been teaching my children to do, and what I have been role modeling to our community to do, to be courageous, to when you see something that needs change or that you need to advocate, to do that. When you see excellence, and how do you appreciate that, and how do you recognize our teachers and our staff and our students? So I think that I have, without even being part of the board, have been able to demonstrate and live those core values, and really have helped demonstrate our students that why those core values are important. These core values established outside of me and my abilities, but they hit on something, and they hit on personal success, and they hit on what will a student need when they graduate, when they leave this campus. What will they need to be successful? And it's collaboration and teamwork, and appreciation for others, and courageousness, and to be to have all those skills, and to feel confident about their skills and their abilities, and to walk forward with that. I feel like I have demonstrated that over the past 10 years, and have helped the students that I have worked with and advocated for to continue in those footsteps as well.
Thank you so much. Sorry to lead off with that tough question. I really want to, the first one, I want to try to give a little bit more time just to prepare, and I apologize for trying to rush you through it. So, John, the same question.
For the record, it's not any easier going second.
It's not. So, how would your role as school board member demonstrate the core values of our district?
I think it starts at the top, and I think that as board members, we need to live those core values. And I also feel that as I go down the list, I feel that I'm doing those things on a regular basis. When you talk about community, my role in the community as a firefighter, a parent, and as a board member over the course of many, many years has been an extremely positive role model out in the community. As far as the excellence piece of it, you know, I always try to do my best, you know, whether it be at the board making the decisions that I think are best for the district and the students, having that integrity, being respectful to the fellow members on the board, or to whether it's the staff or the community members that want to ask questions or have concerns. As Lorien mentioned, you know, having the courage to advocate for something that maybe isn't the norm, or it might be a little uncomfortable to ask those questions. And I think as a board member, in living those core values, the innovation piece is thinking outside the box, and things, the norm maybe isn't what's working anymore, and what can we do differently, and are there suggestions or is there directions we can go that maybe, again, are uncomfortable, but are the right direction in the long run. So I guess in closing and that and wrapping it up is as a board member, I think that if we want the rest of our staff to follow our core values, we need to live them first.
Okay, thank you so much. So Ted, the question again, how would your role as school board member demonstrate the core values of our district?
Yeah, I agree totally. You have to model the core values as a school board member as well if you're going to advocate for those values throughout the district. And so as a school board member, I've always tried to be collaborative, work with the other board members but at the same time be honest and be courageous and present different opinions when I have those different opinions, and those I believe those are right. And so, it's a balancing. You have to be balanced in your implementation of the core values, but definitely you have to have them, and it has to come through. And I think also expecting those core values from our staff, and then recognizing when our staff and students demonstrate those core values, and applauding those core values is very important. And as I think John said, those core values are embedded in our life skills training. So it's not just enough to be academically prepared, but you also have to have the persistence. You also have to have the collaboration skills. All the skills that everyone needs in the workforce to succeed have to be developed starting now in our school district, so that when students graduate, they are work ready, not only academically, but in their social skills and those life skills.
Okay, thank you so much. Naty, the question is, how would your role as school board member demonstrate the core values of our district?
Yeah, I agree. It's not that easy. Even fourth, I had to listen to all their answers. No cut and paste on this one. Yeah, it's an interesting role. I think the first thing that came to my mind when you asked the question is, we're leaders. We have to lead. And that, first of all, that has to do with how we live our lives, right? Nobody's going to follow somebody who disingenuously asks for something that they can't do, right? So, yes, we have to live it out with our lives. Integrity, courage, innovation, those are all really important things. Those show character, right? But then we have to be leaders who don't just live it out in our lives. We have to create an environment, and we have to inspire other people to want to do that. Otherwise, our vision is meaningless. So how do we equip, provide for, snowplow for administration so that they can then pass it on to teachers and create an environment where teachers then can have these innovations, collaborations, respect, community feeling in their classrooms so that students then are touched by those values. I can have influence in the lives directly of people I interact with on a daily basis, my own children, their friends, so students that way, but my best impact can be a leader who demonstrates these things and teaches and inspires and creates an environment where people are freed to teach these things directly to the students. And those are the people who have the day-to-day interactions with them.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. The next question, and with John, we're going to start with you. And each of you have talked about the different roles that you have in the community, the different things that you have done, and who you are in this community, and then how to differentiate that is this question. So, as a school board member, how does that role differ from that of a parent or a community member? So let me just ask it again. How does the role of a school board member differ from that of a parent or community member? So you as a parent, you as a community member, and then you as a school board member, how do you differentiate that? So John, we will start with you.
That's a great question. And it's a difficult question, and sometimes it's difficult to do as a school board member in a community like Columbia Heights. It's a small community for myself personally. Being a parent, obviously, being an actively engaged parent throughout the years with my students, I've developed relationships with the different staff and the teachers, the administration. So to walk into the building, even though I'm parent motivated at the time, I'm still viewed as, I suspect as, he's on the board. So I know when I walk into a building, my intention is the only reason I would be in a building is be parent related or an activity that's going on. I don't go into the buildings as a school board member. That's not my job. That's the superintendent's job to take care of the staff. When I go in as a firefighter, and I do often in my position there as well, again, I go in my role. I suspect, again, people think, okay, he's with the school board or there's that parent or whatever, but I work really, really hard to, at least in my actions towards the staff that I'm interacting with, to define my role. I'm either in a uniform as a firefighter, and they know that. I come in my, my regular off-duty clothes. I'm a parent if I'm in a building, and I try to let people know that on a regular basis. But it is difficult. I think that you always, in the back, you always have that school board hat on.
Yeah. Good. Thank you so much. So, Ted, over to you. How does the role of a school board member differ from that of a parent or a community member?
I think that it differs because you have to separate yourself from parents, community members, students, because you're representing all of them, and you have to think that way, and you have to just open up your view when you consider the decisions that we make, and figure out how will this impact all of them, and given that, what is the best way to move forward. And especially listening to all the other views that from the other board members that have different perspectives. And so I try to be as broad-minded as possible and think of those things. But being a parent really helps. I have two daughters that graduated from high schools, and having that perspective really helps me as when I make the board decisions, because I can relate to parents and I can relate to what they're thinking and might be going through. Community member, I'm a property owner now. My students, my daughters have graduated, but I'm still a property owner. And so how are the decisions we make affecting our properties and the value of our properties? And just our community in general. Are people going to want to live in our community and move in and have their students come to Columbia Heights schools? So you have to think broadly as a school board member. It's not an easy job, but it's very challenging and it's great.
Thanks. Naty, over to you. How does the role of a school board member differ from that of a parent or community member?
Yeah, I agree that it's been a blessing to not just be a school board member, and I think that's why school board members are elected officials from within their community. They have a context, they understand that. And similar things are true with being a neighbor, a friend, a taxpayer, a homeowner. All of those things help to create a more robust knowledge of what's happening around me, because my decisions aren't made in a vacuum. But at the end of the day, when we make school board related decisions, it could be tempting to think of your own child first. Maybe we were making decisions on some programming that need to be cut or something like that, hopefully not. But if we got to that place, I'd have to ask, what's in the best interest of all the kids, not just my child? So I think there has to be this standard that we represent the entirety of the community, the constituents who voted us into office, but particularly the kids, because that's why we're doing this. That's why we have the schools. To be more pragmatic about it, typically when I'm serving as a school board member, I don't wear a stocking hat. And when I am in regular things, I wear a stocking hat, so teachers aren't so confused. They know I came in as a parent because I got the stocking hat on. So, yeah.
This is kind of the self-identifier.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Visual cues.
All right, Lorien, the question again for you. How does the role of a school board member differ from that of a parent or community member?
This is probably the most difficult challenge for me as I seek the new role as being on the school board. As a very active, involved parent, I have been very vocal in advocating for our students. I've been very engaged in advocating for our students. Did I mention I've been very vocal in advocating for our students? Not quiet. And that role has to change. And one of the challenges, and for me deciding to run for school board, is I was able to advocate and affect change as a vocal, involved parent. And that was important to me. And I needed to be able to switch that role from that loud parent to one of a member of a board. And as Ted mentioned, I mean, that role of the board, we represent the voters. We represent the constituents. It's not just me, it's not just my kids. Now, I have been advocating for all students and not just my own. But it's the people that we represent. We're representing taxpayers. Like Naty said, we have to be good stewards of our tax dollars, and we have to make good decisions for the district and for all students and for taxpayers and community members. And that's different. That's different than being on the PTO or on advisory councils and being an active parent. It's a lot of responsibility, and you have to be able to be ready to accept that. I'm there at this point, but it is a challenge, and I think it's one that I can live up to.
All right, thank you all very much. I'm really glad to see that you're all in it for the money. I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah. It's the big paycheck that you get to take home. So, but we do want to talk about taxes, budgets, those kinds of things. So the next question, and Ted, we'll be starting with you. The next question has to do with the tax base and school referenda. The question is this: explain why you would support or would not support automatic renewals of existing school referenda. So let me just ask the question again. Explain why you would or would not support automatic renewals of existing school referenda. And Ted, we will start with you.
Well, I think some renewals, I think the law says that some renewals are automatic, and those, it depends on, again, the legislature. The legislature pretty much controls a lot of what the school boards can and cannot do, probably, a lot. And so we have to follow the law, and we have to that takes it out of our hands. But so when the legislature says renewals can be automatic, absolutely, I support the law. I support whatever the legislature says we have to do. The reason I wouldn't support automatic renewals at some point is because I like people voting on those renewals. I like to have the community's say in it. Yes, they elect school board members, and that happens every 4 years, but there's nothing like them actually voting on that issue and getting the community's voice on that. And so, taxes are a serious issue. Keeping Columbia, I moved to Columbia Heights because it was affordable, and I like to stay, and I know a lot of people want to stay in Columbia Heights because it's affordable. And having the tax burden on those people, we need to get their say so that they feel like they are still being heard.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, Naty, over to you. Explain why you would support or would not support automatic renewals of existing school referenda.
My answer is going to be pretty similar to Ted's. I've learned a lot about automatic renewal. The state allows a lot of that to happen within schools, and some of that is tied to what the state then will offer our school in return. And so within the boundaries of the law and how common practice and best practices, I would be in favor of some of these automatic renewals. But as we see different types of things come before voters, such as the vote yes thing from 2 years ago, I think it's important that, just like Ted said, that community members have voice, because we do live in a place where affordability is an important thing. People want also to be heard. And so I'm glad for the different dichotomies that exist in this, that allow schools to get the funding they need, but also give voters and taxpayers a choice. So, same.
Very well said.
Yeah,
Thanks.
excellent. So, Lorien, the question again for you. Explain why you would support or would not support automatic renewals of existing school referenda.
I think we have to support, to a point, the automatic renewals, and part of that is with financial uncertainty, you stunt growth. If we don't know from 1 year to the next what our funds will be, it leaves too much up in question. It restricts future planning, it restricts capital planning, it restricts program growth, staffing. There are so many things that are tied to that. I think the district has to know at some element of, we at least have this base funding to operate. This is our base income that we have, and then that's what we're going to operate the district from. Like Naty and Ted said, then there's an element in addition to that. Then there's the element of the part of the active citizens. The citizens of Columbia Heights being able to say, yes, I think that's the direction that the school should move in, and they are meeting their goals in these areas, and we can fund or provide the funds, and I'm willing to provide those funds or those tax dollars to continue that momentum forward, to support that program. Or you know what, no, I think that goal is out of alignment with the mission, and I don't think that's going where we need to be. And so we have the voters' voice to be able to know that, yes, we're heading in the right direction, it's being supported, or it's not supported. And you know what, let's take a look at that, and let's look back and say, okay, what direction that we need to move in. But starting off with, the district has to know and has to be able, it's like not knowing from one day to the next if you're going to get paid and how you're going to pay your mortgage. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. John, the question again, explain why you would support or would not support automatic renewals of existing school referenda.
I could go around the table and say I agree as well, but Naty alluded to there's certain renewals that are tied to if we don't, then we lose additional funding and things like that, and that leads me to agree with Lorien, which is we need to have some stability. We need to know as best we can. It already fluctuates depending upon what the state decides to give us for money, on an annual basis, and by not renewing some of those automatic referenda, you are going to be wondering who are we going to have to cut. I watch the process that we go through already every year in making those decisions as to what we're going to do with our staffing, and I will turn to Ted and agree with him when it comes to some of the other things that we asked for money on, and the vote yes is what was alluded to, and we had two different that were out there, the technology levy and then also the operating levy. And I absolutely feel that as a taxpayer, I want an opportunity to say yes or no to those things because they are going to greatly impact, or maybe not greatly, but impact how much more I'm going to be paying. So I would like to have a say for that. So
okay.
I would, for the most part, I would support the automatic renewals.
All right. Thank you all so much. I just appreciate these answers. The next question, we'll start with Naty. There are so many challenges when it comes to education for districts, school boards, public education, all of these things. And I think within the state, we'll always have this ongoing conversation of things like achievement gap, graduation rates, those kinds of things. So the question here is what are the current challenges you see facing public education and school boards? What are the current challenges you see facing public education and school boards right now? So Naty, we will start with you.
My first inclination is to say just changing cultural and workplace needs and expectations. I think the big question has to be, as the American workplace changes to a highly technical, highly collaborative place, how do we, or how should we not, alter the way we educate students to accommodate growth into a 21st century workforce? What are the things that need to remain the same? What are the things that need to change? How's that responsible of us? How do we do that in a way that teaches kids the basics, creates good citizenship? I think that's a question that we're probably going to be asking for another 20 years because we'll try things and we'll see how they were successful and we'll see how they weren't successful and learn from that and hopefully change, adapt, and grow until the schools come to represent that a little bit more in making kids ready for that workforce. I think another challenge probably that exists amongst all schools is just the uniqueness of students. Some of those things that we talked about, just that each child is unique and they each have their very own talents, they each have their own unique learning styles. And that creates challenges in classrooms that are large for teachers to help accommodate all the learning needs of all the students. I think that's how do we help teachers to diversify their teaching skills and create classrooms where all kids have opportunities to grow. I mean, the list goes on, and I have to stop.
Good. Yeah, the challenges are just that. I mean, they're just that extensive. Lorien, over to you. What are current challenges that you see that are facing public education and school boards?
Okay, well, I'm actually going to take more than 90 seconds because I'm just going to take what she said and then we're going to continue on. But I think what Naty says brings a good point. We have to manage expectations, and those expectations are expectation of parents, expectation of colleges, expectations of employers, of general community members, managing those expectations. And learning isn't something that just goes in a straight line. As any teacher will tell you, it's up and it's down and it has its good days and its bad days, and every student's learning differently. And so you have to adapt to that. But the problem is that we have these standards that we have to meet. And so you look at these standards and say, okay, here are the educational standards. Here's our expectations of where students will be year 1, year 2, year 3, and moving forward. And are those standards changing with what's happening in our world and what's happening with our economy and what's happening in our community? And the difficult part of that is if you change those standards to ebb and flow with what's happening with students, how do you benchmark? So then how do you know that the school in the school district is doing their job, is meeting your expectations? So I think it's just the challenge is finding that balance and finding the balance between how do we ebb and flow with our students' needs and how our communities are and what our expectations are? How do we manage those expectations and help guide them and set them? But then how do we benchmark our students to show that our students and our staff are being successful so that we have some sort of accountability? And I think all of those things wrapped together is what a real challenge is for our schools and our school board.
Okay, thank you so much. So John, again, the question is this: what are the current challenges you see facing public education and school boards?
Okay, I will continue to build on the previous two, but I'll mention a couple challenges that are kind of key phrases out there, and you mentioned them initially, Pastor Dan. The achievement gap and graduation rates. How do we close the achievement gap, and how do we increase our graduation rates? And it does have a lot to do with I guess embracing and recognizing diversity to start with, and the fact that our students do learn at different levels, and some are visual learners, some are very factual learners, some are just, it takes maybe a little longer for them to get it, but recognizing that. And I think what we need to do is recognize that. And there are some things that are already taking place in our district, and I think we need to build on those, and whether that's the personalized learning initiative, improving our technology. We didn't learn like our kids are learning now. Technology is huge. Encouraging parent engagement is a big one. I think is going to help to help close that gap and to increase our graduation rates, and given the tools necessary to our teachers, to our staff, to allow them to find that balance, somehow meet those standardized expectations, yet still, and I had talked about it in an earlier question, still having the opportunity to teach our students the life skills that they need to be successful when they leave our district.
Great, thank you so much. And Ted, again, the question is this: what are the current challenges that you see facing public education and school boards?
I think the main challenge is how do we enact personalized learning on a broad scale? Mm-hmm. How are we able to develop each student as an individual, culturally, academically, take them where they're at and move them to where they need to be successful in the workforce, to be successful, to be college and career ready. And that is changing, ever changing. The world is ever changing. There's jobs that are being created now that we didn't even dream of, 6 months ago. And so the schools have to always be evolving and adapting to that, which means teachers and staff have to be developed and trained, and there always has to be constant improvement in how can we do that job better and better serve students given the world that we're in. And I think also the broad spectrum of students we have students with all kinds of needs and issues that inhibit learning that need to be addressed, and we need to figure out what is going to drive that learning and then meet that need. And so that's always a challenge. The schools, I've gone to conferences, and I think the education system realizes that a lot of times the schools are back in the Industrial Revolution. We have the same model that we have back then. Now we have learning labs. For example, at North Park, we have more collaborative types of setups so that students can actually have a better chance of developing those 21st century skills.
Okay. All right. We have 2 questions left, and so Lorien, I apologize, you get to lead with another difficult one. And let me just start with the question, then come back to the question, give you a little bit of time. And that's this: what distinguishes you from other candidates running for the school board? What distinguishes you from other candidates running for the school board? And I do want to say, just listening to each of you, I have so deeply appreciated the collaboration and the thoughtfulness of the agreement that is here. So it's there's no sense of you got to tear down somebody else. It's what do you bring to the table? So again, Lorien, we'll start with you. What distinguishes you from the other candidates running for school board?
I think what distinguishes me is that I'm not afraid to ask the difficult questions. And I'm not only that, but I'm willing to work hard and to be a part of the solution. I have a proven track record of having specific and unique skills that I have in my personal life and my professional career that can be immediately transferred to school board duties. I also have a deep appreciation and understanding for the district culture. So as the only member here that is not currently on the school board, I do think that I have an understanding and appreciation from being actively involved for the last 10 years. In my professional career, I report to city and county boards. So I'm often on the other side of the table as that person who's receiving the direction. I manage apartment buildings that are owned by cities and counties. That those are elected officials who are trying to be good stewards of their constituents' tax dollars as well. And I'm the one who's trying to operate buildings, and I'm the one who's trying to make them successful while keeping rents low and managing 20 and 30-year-old properties. And I do that every day, and managing resident expectations and family expectations and parent involvement. So between my professional career in budgeting and fiscal responsibility, my school involvement, my volunteerism, I have very unique skills that set me apart from other candidates.
Okay, thank you so much. So you're the outsider, so we'll go with that one. No, I'm kidding. But thank you for that answer. So John, over to you. What distinguishes you from the other candidates running for school board?
I had an opportunity this fall to speak to all the staff when they came back for the convocation, and I'm going to kind of follow my line of thinking that I used with them. And it was, at that time, was to tell them how much I appreciated them, but I think it also will give you an idea of what distinguishes me from other people here. I'm a parent, not necessarily distinguishing, but I'm a strong advocate for my kids. I graduated from here. I've got long before most of you were, well, a couple of you, but I have that the blue and gold in my blood. I work for the fire department. I have for 23 years, and I've been in this district as a firefighter, educating, treating. I've seen our staff, I've seen our students differently than anyone else has. It's given me a perspective that I would not otherwise have. I've been on the board for going on 4 years now, and that's given me a whole different perspective and outlook on how I approach things. I think that I've demonstrated strong leadership skills throughout the course of some difficult times here as a board member, as the board chair, and those things combined, I think, are what distinguishes me differently from the other board members here.
Thank you so much. Ted, over to you. What distinguishes you from the other candidates running for school board?
I think in a word, it's experience. I have over 3 times the experience of I think everyone in this table pretty much to combine, so on the school board. And that brings a lot of perspective to the school board that the school board really needs and I think benefits from. I've been through budgetary, statutory operating debt issues. I've been through very good times when we've done a lot of remodeling in the school district, where I've seen the community really come together behind the schools. And I've seen what works, what doesn't work so well. And I think I have the judgment that from that I can share with the other board members and provide that perspective. And also, I don't have students anymore at this school district, so I have the perspective. There's a lot of community members that don't have students in this school district, but we still support the district, and we still have that. I can communicate with them, and I have that perspective of knowing what it's like to support the schools, but not actually have a student here. I have an MBA in finance, so I understand the financial aspects of running a school very well. I'm starting to understand school finance. It's still a big, complicated topic, but I think the more years I spend here, the more I understand. I'm also an attorney, so I have the legal background. A lot of what we do is driven by law, and I can bring that perspective as well.
Okay, fantastic. And so, Natty, over to you. What distinguishes you from other candidates running for the school board?
I think one of the key differences between me and these wonderful people are that I actually work at a nonprofit that reports to a board. So I understand the dynamics of board life and how that impacts both the other people who are laboring or volunteering and then the people who are recipients of that. So I have a unique understanding of that, and I feel a sense of responsibility because I've been on the receiving end of that for the last 10 years. I am also new to the game. I think it was less than a year ago we were doing this before
Exactly, yeah.
for the special election, so I think I offer freshness. But I think even more than that, I have a unique leadership style. I feel like I have a unique set of gifts that really exemplifies some of these core values, and I think of my desire to create and my ability to create community and collaboration. So I'm not just a leader who wants to get in front of people. I'm a leader who wants to get with them and create people who are ready to move. I'm a leader who loves to inspire other people. So in our community, it's a unique link I think I have in a kinship with people in our community that wants to create somebody who is rallying the community to something cool, something innovative, something respectful and collaborative, and show our integrity and unity in that way. So for me, those are super high values that I think somebody with my unique set of gifts can bring to a board.
Okay. Thank you all very much. This is our last question. We'll be starting with John. And again, this is, from the way you all are, it's going to be a difficult one to keep to 90 seconds. Because it's just those things that, you know, you all have that sense, and I certainly do. We love bragging on what's going on here. We love bragging on the upside, you know, and there are some great things that are going on. So our last question tonight is this. In your opinion, what are some of the hidden gem programs in Columbia Heights Public Schools? Maybe some things that you know about or you've seen along the way, and you go, wow, that is just an amazing thing. And maybe it's not one of those things that we've really promoted or talked a lot about. But so in your opinion, what are some of the hidden gem programs in Columbia Heights Public Schools? And John, we will start with you.
Okay. I will try to keep it under 90 seconds.
Exactly.
We've had, it's been referenced multiple times, but I think probably one of the, and I don't know if it's hidden, but a gem I think that we certainly have in our district here is our diversity. We have and we provide something for our students that a lot of other people don't have. So I think that's huge. I think that's a big piece of what is going on here. One of our other hidden gems, I think, is we've been ahead of the curve, if you will, with our early childhood learning for years. We were doing all-day kindergarten before it was cool to do all-day kindergarten. The district found a way to pay for that. It's since been been assisted with financially from the state. Our early childhood, our ECFE, we've been extremely proactive in reaching out to, I believe Kristen calls them our youngest scholars. And we've been actively promoting and bringing those scholars into our district. We just recently received a grant that's allowed us to make those available for free. And I think another gem, and I'll touch on just briefly, is, and it isn't like we're the only ones that have it, but our AP program, our advanced placement, is not, well, Ted told them we received a North American award for recognition for our success. So it isn't we just have a bunch of kids taking the test. We have a bunch of kids with a lot of diversity doing really well and passing those tests, and that's why we received that award. So whatever we're doing with our AP program, we're doing really, really well.
Okay, thank you so much. So Ted, again, the question is this. In your opinion, what are some of the hidden gem programs in the Columbia Heights Public Schools?
Well, it's not so much a program, but I don't think people fully realize how dedicated our staff is. And I discovered that when, my daughters were studying for their AP tests, and then they had staff that would spend extra hours, weekends, evenings, to prepare them, go above and beyond, because they cared so much. And to me, that's everything, to have a staff that's dedicated and is willing to do that just speaks volumes. And I'm not sure everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And then the diversity, the things that Columbia Heights is able to accomplish with the diversity in languages, diversity in abilities, and still produce the results that we produce, it's unbelievable. And we're starting to get recognized by that, for that, with our AP recognition. And then the ELL programs have always been a key thing that we do really well in Columbia Heights. And I don't think people realize that. So the challenges are being overcome, and they are huge, but yet we're able to do it. And then the early childhood learning, I agree with John, being able to get students in early and be able to have them read by 3rd grade. The sooner we can get them in and get them on that track so that they can have success the rest of their career. If they're not reading by 3rd grade, studies show that that is a real problem, and we're working on that too.
All right, thank you so much. So Naty, again, the question, in your opinion, what are some of the hidden gem programs in the Columbia Heights Public Schools?
It's nice to not go first, because then you can go what they said. Yeah, the diversity, of course. Or I was going to say early childhood. I've heard a lot about that, and those youngest scholars. We've talked about personalized learning of initiatives among students. I think until you're a parent in the schools and you're hearing that term, you don't realize how valuable that is for kids. We talked about all the ways kids can potentially get college credits through PSTO, through AP, and through attaining an associate's degree right here in the school building. So there's these unique niches people can find, and kids can go into their college experience already having college credit. The things that I think people hear less about, though, are that unique kinship amongst teachers and administrators. This is a fun place to be on Welcome Week. They do an excellent job of enfolding new teachers and returning teachers into the excitement of the new school year. I deeply enjoyed Invocation this year, just seeing that collaborative spirit together. And I think that actually rubs off on the kids, because as I've seen my kids, particularly at Columbia Academy and the high school, they feel a kinship for one another. They have a community spirit. They're in it together. They feel like, they really do feel like they're all in it together. And that's, with all the diversity, with all the uniqueness, they feel a kinship for each other that's hard to explain unless you've seen it.
Wow. Thank you so much. So, Lorien, we finished with you. In your opinion, what are some of the hidden gem programs in the Columbia Heights Public Schools?
I want to talk about 2 specifically, and one is I just continue to be thrilled with the LEAP program at Highland. LEAP is a multi-grade program for gifted and talented students. My daughter is in 5th grade in that program. It's her 2nd year. It's for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and the incredible things that she's doing in that class are phenomenal. And I just had her conference yesterday, and her test scores just flew off the charts. So that's a hidden gem, and it's a piloting program, and I think it's wonderful, and I'd love for everybody in our communities to know that that's happening here. The others have talked about our early childhood, but I want to talk a little bit more about our adult education, and I think that's huge in our district. And in order for our students to be successful in their everyday learning, having their parents that are able to be successful in their continued education, whether it's receiving a GRE or language education, English as a second language program, we're providing that here as a district through our adult basic education. In addition, our community education programs that offer community-based learning, whether it's cooking classes, dance classes, it's really an opportunity for all members of our community to be engaged in our schools, to take part in that and what we have to offer, and again, see the value in their tax dollars, and meet other members of the community and working through our adult education.
All right, that is our last question. I want to thank each one of you. Thank you for honoring each other's time. I really appreciate that. That's a difficult thing to do, and especially when you all are talking about the good things, which is really wonderful because you can't stop on that, and that's great. I would like the audience, if you would thank each of the candidates here for their time and their participation tonight. Mr. Honigs, any final instructions or anything here?
No, I'm just glad everybody came, and it was very respectful, and nobody encroaches on anybody else's time. We didn't have to cut the mics on anybody. Thank you all for coming, and I hope that the community is well informed about our board members that are running.
Yeah, and November 28th, no, 8th. November 8th. All right, thank you all for coming and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Yes.
Thanks so much. Thanks.